never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.
Hi guys, welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Mary Beth Schrudder, my guest today, is the living example how you can deal with things in a different way and how you can come out the better version of yourself. And sometimes in ways that you would have never expected, and sometimes with tools that you never thought were actually there for you. So Mary Beth, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. This is going to be fun. This is going to be a good one. I can tell.
Oh my goodness. Positivity actually is an appreciation of the darkness. We can't appreciate the light when we have not seen the darkness and experienced it firsthand. Were you always this bubbly and positive, and was life always a peach for you?
Oh, absolutely not. And, I would have actually called myself positive. I don't think I even knew positivity until I became sober, to be honest. Like that's when just everything lifted. And I just learning about law of attraction too was really helpful. And you brought up a lot of that stuff with the energy and contrast. Contrast is how we create. So we need to love all these little hiccups and all these little mistakes. And, that's how we learn. That's like, we don't learn anything when our life's going smoothly, right? When you think about those smooth times in life, we didn't learn anything, but we learn a lot when it's a shitstorm, like you said earlier, just to quote you.
But, it is.
But yeah, we're powerful creators. We are. And I didn't realize that. I was in that victim role, like you mentioned. I blamed everybody for everything that was wrong. I didn't take personal responsibility or accountability. And honestly, the more I learned about law of attraction, I started learning about that in 2006 with that movie, The Secret came out, which is a great, it's a book too, but also a documentary. And it's a great introduction, but it also led me astray a bit because it was really very basic. And now I'm like master in law of attraction and I love it so much. And it's gotten me out of the darkness. And that's like one of the major tools that I use to help people out of addiction, because that's what really helped me. It's an alternative way of looking at things, right? Like, I think you went to AA.
I went to a rehab 10 years ago that was based on the AA system, although not as religious. It was more a framework. But that doesn't work for everyone, doesn't it?
No, and that's what I was going to say. Well, I was ordered to go to Alcoholics Anonymous at one point, and this was back in 2008. We're recording this towards the end of 2024. So it's been a while. And this was a DUI is what they call it here in the United States, driving under the influence. So I got pulled over for that. I was arrested. It was, oh my gosh, it was Valentine's Day. So Valentine's Day, I'm in this little red dress. I was out with my friends. I was going through a divorce. So of course I'm a hot mess. Right. But I'm in this little red dress, Valentine's Day for singles little party downtown Cincinnati where I live. And we did some shots like right before we left. And I literally could feel myself getting more and more drunk as I was driving. I was like, oh shit. What do I do? Like, I knew like this was a bad situation. And as I was trying to think, should I pull over? Like I'm on the freeway, I'm driving on a highway. So I didn't know what to do. I got pulled over. I was, because my leg was shaking. Like I knew it was going to be bad. Got arrested. But it's so interesting because, and that is when I was ordered to go to AA because I blew so high. So that was one of the stupid things that I did when I was drinking. But for me, it was depressing. It wasn't good for me. Like it definitely didn't make me feel like I don't want to drink. And I kind of teach today the opposite, like, because it didn't match my spiritual beliefs. My spiritual beliefs, I would never say, like when we say I am blank, like I am an alcoholic. I don't like to say that because we're creating that identity. Like I said earlier, we're powerful creators. So every time we say I am, you are in creator mode. So I will never say that. And to this day, I say, I'm a person who used to have a bad relationship with alcohol. And now I no longer do. I used to have toxic relationships. Now I don't. Like that's the old me. I have a new identity. I had an energetic shift, and that's what I teach is these spiritual recovery methods that it took me a long time, but like now that I've got them down, like I can help others like really quickly as long as they're committed, because that commitment and also being out of denial, big part of what took me so much time is denial is such a strange phenomenon. I had people telling me I drink too much. I was just like, well, I'm fun and you're lame, or you're controlling, because my ex-husband was controlling. But you know what? Unpopular opinion. Our ex-husbands weren't wrong about everything, ladies. Like I definitely was drinking too much and he was trying to tell me, but because he was controlling, like I had this wall up, like I can't hear you, but he was correct about that. In the beginning of our marriage, he was drinking with me, but he kind of slowed down and then ultimately quit, and I was just like, quitter. You're a quitter. But yeah, I was bummed out when he quit drinking because he was kind of like my partner in crime before that, and I didn't feel bad about myself. And I wouldn't have, after that divorce, like I wouldn't have even dated anybody who didn't drink, right? Like there was no way. I only surrounded myself with people like me. So what happens? It's hard to see you have a problem when I'm sitting there comparing myself to people who drink as much or more than me. I didn't compare myself to non-drinkers, obviously. So even that DUI that I got, that was not a red flag for me, because I start telling everyone, oh my God, you guys, the worst thing happened to me. You're never going to believe it. And they're like, oh yeah, I had one back in a couple of years ago. I had one. Everyone I knew, because everyone I knew was drinkers. Absolutely. They all had one. So it really wasn't this. For a minute, yeah, I was freaked out that night. Like I'm in my red dress and high heels on the side of the freeway. I'm crying. I'm like, I'm going to lose my son. That's what I was thinking.
Yep.
When even my ex-husband, when he found out, he just laughed about it. He didn't try to get custody. He didn't try any of that stuff that I worried about. So I didn't have consequences. So it wasn't this big wake-up call. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I absolutely love the way you are honest about it, because it is the teacher will appear when the student is ready for it. And denial, 95% of people who are drinking dangerously will say, me? I'm not an alcoholic. John over there, or Tina over there, look at her. Yeah. Because we surround ourselves, isn't it? It's crazy. Man.
It is crazy. And then there were so many things I did. Like one time I was drinking, my first time drinking tequila. I was only 18, by the way. And I had a fake ID, got into this, I had 13 stitches in my chin because it was really embarrassing. Like it was one of these clubs, like a dance club. Okay. I'm 50. So this was a long time ago when I was 18, and like they had these raised, places you could dance. And I fell off of it and hit my chin on the way down. I end up in the hospital getting stitches and that was my first time drinking tequila. Like that wasn't even like a red flag for me for some reason.
No, these are not red flags. These are I don't know, stepping stones. These are things that define you. That I how many times do we fuck up? Under the influence of alcohol, but we wear it as an honor badge, isn't it? I'm sure you told that story many times over, didn't you?
Yeah. And it was, and I still have the scar for it. But the first time I drank was when I was 11 years old. So that's a huge hello. But it kind of goes back. I think like most of us, we start drinking because of some sort of trauma. Like I had a lot of childhood trauma. I never felt safe or secure. My parents divorced when I was 5. And then that's not when I started drinking, of course, but I just can tell you that's when the anxiety started. I had major, major anxiety because my 5-year-old brain was like, oh my God, if dads can leave, then my mom can leave too. Right. Like I didn't know, like she wouldn't. So every time she left the house, I was just so anxious. And then this was the 70s, the 1970s. So they also had just taken my blanket away from me. I had a blankie that was my self-soothing. Like no one teaches us how to self-soothe. Nobody went to therapy in the 70s. So I was just just really a mess. Like it really was like traumatic for me. And that sounds so silly. Like a blankie, that was traumatic. Yeah. Because that was my only thing that I had to soothe me. And they took it away. Like I woke up and they just they said, you're too old to have it. I'm fucking 5 years old. What are you talking about? Like I'm too old to have a blankie. But I guess the problem was I took it everywhere I went, and that's what they didn't like. But yeah, so they just took it away. And I remember all this. Like I remember being 2 years old. I have a freakish memory. I think also like when they got divorced, my mom started working and we were left with a neighbor who neglected us. And like I was always hungry. Like they never fed us. And I didn't even know like to tell on them because it was just my normal, right? Like, you don't even know, I didn't have anything to compare it to. And essentially, I think that's what started the food addiction because I've gone through my main things were food addiction, relationship addiction, and that my relationship addiction started probably from the that feeling of the anxious attachment that got started when my mom and dad divorced, right? Then I'm this anxious attachment person, and who do I attract? I attract people who are really secure in their attachments and manipulative, and then it's just this bad dynamic, and then I'm the clingy person, and it's funny because just so everybody knows, you don't get stuck. You don't have to be stuck in whatever attachment style you're in. Like I went from being anxious to avoidant. Actually, I went sometimes the pendulum swings the other way. Like I was like, nobody's ever going to control me again, and then I'm back to I'm insecure. Like I can have very healthy relationships now. And actually in my practice, I was telling you before we hit record that I get more people with relationship addiction issues, codependency, trauma bonds. And I'm an expert in that. I have all the education in it, but most importantly, the life experience, like that's where I really learned. That's where I really learned because I was taking, all these classes and I knew all this stuff, but it's different when, when you're not reading out of a book and you're actually living it. I was a people pleaser, for instance. And gosh, that's when we really attract manipulators because there's no one easier to manipulate within a people pleaser. And then I had to learn, oh my goodness. Well, when we're a people pleaser, we're little liars. We're little liars running around. We don't know it. We think we're being nice and because we're avoiding conflict and we're kind, but we're really just telling people what they want to hear. We're not being self-betrayal too. We're hurting ourselves. We're hurting the other people. And then we're not attracting the right people for us because we didn't get into a relationship based on how we really feel, our true authentic selves. We got into a relationship based on trying to get someone to like us because do you know Gabor Mate by chance? Gabor Mate?
Of course.
So he said something that was a huge light bulb moment for me. He said, as a child, when you don't feel wanted, you're going to make sure that you're needed. And I think that's where the people pleasing got started in my world, at least anyway. And when I had my first drink at 11, I was all this anxious mess, this hot mess, right? And my friend and I went on vacation with my friend and her parents were super lenient, very lenient. And they had alcohol sitting out all over the counters. And we were just kind of bad kids, I guess. I was pretty, just like we were bratty. And she was like, let's try some. We just mixed a bunch of stuff together. But I can tell you, it was the first time in my life that I could remember not feeling anxious. And that's what I was like, oh my God, I feel good. Because I also had social anxiety. A lot of us drink for that reason as a social lubricant. And I was like, this is the first time I could just relax. Oh my God, I can relax. And that's all we're doing with addictions. We just innately know we're supposed to feel good. We're supposed to feel better. And we want relief. We just are looking to feel better. And that's all it is. And then we stigmatize it and criminalize it. And, we're just really seeking relief.
Which is beautiful the way you say it. You're quite right. That's exactly what typically is happening. And that's why we use these substances. And I love it what you said about the food. I think that's the biggest addiction that we see nowadays. And I think that's the key to the last 10 years, for example, when you look at the obesity rates in the United States going up to absolutely dangerous levels, where it is a complete epidemic. It is
Yes.
nuts. And if we nearly could call it a pandemic, because it's not just the United States. There is anxiety levels and fear levels and uncertainty has certainly become more pronounced in many people's lives. And therefore they are going towards social media, towards the food and social media. Have your whatever is your poison, your high calorie, low food or low nutrient dense crap.
Sugar, ultra
Yeah,
processed. Oh my gosh. Like, and
exactly.
that stuff, is created to be addictive. It's created processed food, sugar and fat together is like the most addictive thing. So don't be mad at yourself for being addicted to the stuff. It's created. It's meant to get you addicted. In the United States here, we have all these chemicals and more
Absolutely.
processing and dyes than any other country allows. And I think it's because of our healthcare system. It's a, private, we privately pay. Like if it was universal and everybody's chipping in, it might be a little bit different, but it's it's for profit here. The people,
it's not so easy. It's not so easy because you've got the UK where it's the NHS where everything is basically paid for, and the UK is the fat boy of Europe. Okay, so you've got the same problem. Yeah, you've got the same problem over there.
But they don't have all those chemicals.
No,
they're
they
not.
don't.
They don't. Yeah. So there's not as many regulations here because it's more profitable for people to be sick.
Which
it is.
And it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I think you're
does.
right. No, I think you're right. I 100% agree because it's why otherwise can you explain that? And I loved what you said because we are recipients of we are basically the sheep being led to the slaughter. And we are recipients of so much external influences that are not there to make us better humans. They are there to make someone else money. And that is so true. That affects politics, that affects religion, that affects our food industries, for crying out loud, that affects the alcohol industry. There are, for each and every senator in Washington, you have got two how do you call them? Not influencers. How do these dudes are called? Which are lobbyists. You have got lobbyists.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So it is there is so much lobbying going on, and companies, when you look at their advertising, yes, they advertise to you, but they also influence and interfere with governing bodies to actually create messages that are deemed official and are deemed good. You have a look, the FDA said X, or another health agency says Y. 1992, the food pyramid, when that came out, everyone said,
marketing scam.
Exactly right. And you just think, oh my God, nowadays we know that, but only those people who choose to learn
not
about
everybody.
it.
Yeah, I still get in debates with people about that. And I'm glad you brought that stuff about alcohol, because why isn't it on the label of alcohol? Like for tobacco, for cigarettes, it's going to, there's all these warnings. The only warning on alcohol is about birth defects and then not operating heavy machinery, at least here. That's how ours is. But it's also a group 1 carcinogen right up there with tobacco and asbestos. It is, but they don't tell you that. Like I learned this when I was getting my addiction recovery niche. Like this is why this is a big knowledge. You guys learn about like I usually am like, focus on the positive. When it comes to trying to quit an addiction, focus on the negative things about that substance. And I started to really like wake up to, like, I knew it was bad for my liver. I'm not an idiot. I knew that, but I'm like I'll take milk thistle, and I'll exercise, and I was eating healthy. I'm doing all these things, but it doesn't counteract the fact that alcohol is a poison. Ethanol is a poison. And we're drinking it in my case, every day I was drinking alcohol. I'd go to happy hour. I always had people to go with me, but it's a group 1 carcinogen linked to 7 different types of cancer. And nobody says anything because it's so profitable. It's there. Why aren't the warnings? Why aren't the warnings on there? Like, I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I think this is just facts. We're just pointing out the obvious here. Like when I learned that, I'm like, why didn't I know this? Why didn't I know this before? Like it's really messed up that we didn't know that. And I think it's what it reminds me of is that another scam, the 1930s through the 50s. You're a history buff, you know this. The tobacco companies were paying doctors to prescribe cigarettes. What in the world? I feel like that we're going through that phase with alcohol. Just like we still think it's okay. We're glorifying it. It's normalized everywhere you go. There's alcohol. Like,
of course. There's a beautiful study done, 4 or 5 years ago now, where they analyzed, I think, 1,000 hours of streaming television and 2 major streaming kind of things. And they looked at all shows, regardless of genre, and analyzed how often was alcohol used, what kind of alcohol was used, etc. And it was quite amazing because every 3 minutes, alcohol was used or displayed in a positive way. It was all given as a natural. And it was quite quite spooky, regardless of genre. One streaming agency, so to speak, or a streaming thing, was basically really liking a certain beer or beer in general, whilst the other one was really liking whiskey. It was quite, huh, what a coincidence. Yeah, my bottom. So here we are. If you think that they are after you, you're not paranoid. They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. It's
And
marketing. And then we're victims of marketing, essentially.
absolutely.
And then once you wake up to it, there's a really good book called Alcohol Explained by William Porter.
Hmm.
Have you heard of it?
Yep.
Okay. Yes. Have you read it?
Yep. I have.
Okay. Yeah. That's when I learned, because I was blaming everything on my hormones. Like I said, I'm 50. So I like in my 40s is when I'm starting to like, because I've been alcohol free for 5 years, a little over 5 years,
Yeah.
in a few months. And so I'm blaming my hormones for everything, the weight gain, the lack of sleep. My hormones, my hormones, my hormones. Well, yeah, it probably was my hormones, but nothing messes up your hormones more than alcohol. Like it dysregulates everything in your system, So, but when I read that book and he was talking about, we all learned in like 7th grade, like alcohol is a depressant. So I knew that. But what we didn't learn was that our body does the natural normal thing. It creates stimulants to counteract the depressant. So then like 4 hours after our last drink of alcohol, that depressant wears off. We're only left with the stimulants. And that's why I was waking up at 3 a.m. It wasn't my hormones. I'm like stimulant. I'm just, now all I have is stimulants. And then I'm like, you could tell. I've already got the monkey mind. I've already got the chatter. I've already got all that going. And so once I'm up, so I'm like, I can't do this anymore. But I thought it was my hormones. And guess what? When I did let go of alcohol eventually, I don't have insomnia. I thought I had insomnia, but I drank for 30 years of my life, 30 solid years. And I thought I was an insomniac. I sleep wonderful. And so that's why I love that book, because I never made that connection with like I said, I could always, because it didn't always affect my sleep. It's as we get older, things, our hormones do get a little wonkier, right?
It's not just the hormones, though. It is direct influence on the sleep and the sleep quality. Even if you
Yes.
were to get a few more hours in, even if you had that lay in, your sleep quality is poor. The deep restorative sleep phases are not there. So
True.
you're really torpedoing your own health in a not just a hangover way, but also now the lack of restorative sleep. The poor choices that you make as far as food is concerned. Because when you're drinking, you're not having a nice healthy salad
Yeah.
with it. You're eating some whatever
No.
kind of kebab, dinner,
Fried
greasy,
crap. Yeah.
exactly, whatever
Yeah.
comes in. And often
Cloud of
salty.
judgment.
Yeah, exactly. So you actually have a triple whammy. Virtually,
Yes.
I mean, you were saying I was eating healthy. Well, no, you were not. You were probably malnourished at the time. And
I
whilst
was
you
very malnourished and I did not know that. And
exactly,
because, yeah, but so I don't know if I should bring this one up, because like I ended up, now I'm a pure carnivore now, but it's because of autoimmune, and it cured my autoimmune issues.
yeah,
So like I was thinking I'm doing so well eating all these vegetables all the time.
yeah,
And that was like 80% of my diet. And it turns out like I had this toxic buildup from vegetables. And I was like, it's exact opposite of everything
yeah,
that I ever learned. And I took a lot of nutrition classes. I was
yeah,
going to school for sports nutrition for a while even. And I was like, okay, I have to just deprogram, because I don't think it's bad for everybody, but apparently vegetables create defense chemicals because they don't want to be eaten. They don't have claws or teeth,
yeah.
and they don't
That's
want to
what,
be eaten. So and I had this huge toxic buildup, it
yeah,
turns out. And I wasn't eating processed foods. I really wasn't.
yeah,
That's the one thing that I was doing well is, well, I thought I'm eating all these vegetables, and then I would have like lean protein. So I wasn't getting enough fat. I was eating like
yeah,
boneless, skinless chicken and vegetables, or wild caught salmon and vegetables, and everything I ate was organic. So it wasn't the spray on chemicals, it was their own defense chemicals that the vegetables were creating. And
interesting.
I went to doctors for 3 years trying to figure out why I'm having all these crazy flare-ups, and not one of them figured it out. Honestly, somebody I interviewed on my podcast, I have a spiritual transformation podcast, and somebody I interviewed, told me he's a psychic, and he said, you got to quit eating vegetables. he said, plants are medicine. They're not meant to be sustenance like the way you're eating them. And I was almost a vegetarian because I honestly, emotional reasons, I love animals, and so it was really hard for me to get to this point where I'm a pure carnivore and I eat tons of fat. I was scared of fat. Now I eat so much fat and so much protein. And I lost 20 pounds. But it's like, it's the crazy. It's the opposite of what I was taught. It's the opposite of what a doctor would tell me. They would tell you, you're going to kill yourself. And then you find out, oh, cholesterol is not bad for you. Your brains are made of cholesterol. And it's only bad for you if you're eating a lot of sugar. And then if you have that combination, it's like I heard that they're blaming the firefighter for showing up to the fire. Like, that's the cholesterol. It's like, it's coming there to help, but because it's always there at the scene of the crime, right? But anyway, I don't know if I should have gotten into that stuff because that's very, very controversial, very controversial. I get a lot of hate for that.
No. It is, see, why hate? You should get curiosity.
I know.
You should get curiosity, because just as much as there is a bit of bad in every good, that there's yin and yang, the same is with the world. You cannot say that absolutely everyone should have plants and then forget the lessons from the past. I always take, for example, the Dirty Dozen. There is every year in the United States, those kind of fruits and vegetables that are most polluted are called the Dirty Dozen, and then there's the opposite, the good green, I don't know how they call the other 15, which are the good ones, least pesticides, least polluted. But the
cleanest, yeah,
exactly. But the reality is, we just take little TikTok, YouTube short-sized pieces of information and build up on our lives upon these kind of, okay, greens are good, cholesterol is bad, full stop. No one goes deeper inside. Even if you go deeper inside, then, like, for example, 1992, the food pyramid, which was basically put out there as, yes, lots of grains, lots of beautiful, pasta is your friend. Yeah, right.
And we're going to eat the meat.
Exactly.
We're going to keep all the meat for ourselves. You guys eat the grains, peasants.
It is. Please, there is, and nowadays we know that this food pyramid is essentially wrong, that it has a lot of negative.
Turn it upside down. Exactly.
So there are so many things. So even those who are in the know and who are nutritionists, who are basically, we are supposed to know what we do. In reality, yeah, about that. 50% of what we have learned is probably wrong within 5 or 10 years. And it's the new understandings. So therefore, you never know what really is true until you, as a customer, as a patient, as a client, start becoming an integral part of a treatment team. You actually can't take on perceived facts. You have to say, okay, right, okay, first of all, is that fact probably true? And do I trust this treatment doctor or this nutritionist, etc., this coach? And the answer is, okay, yes, let's work with that, and then work with it for a month, 2, 3, and then see what is the outcome. And you might be surprised that your life turns around to the positive, or you might say, well, actually, if at all, I've got new symptoms or more flare-ups. So what works maybe for 80, 90% of others doesn't work for me. And I think that is what you got
it exactly. And I just know, like, in my group, so I'm in all these carnivore groups, and we all like support each other. And it's like, it's so funny because like almost everybody that I talk to is a former vegetarian or former vegan. And we all nobody wanted this, but it's look, if you're suffering with autoimmune, it's something worth looking into. I only follow the doctors, Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Ken Baker, Dr. Ken Berry, and Dr. Sean Baker, and then there's a lot of other ones out there who have broken out of the matrix, and they all look like Greek gods. It's not like they're, it's like, okay, or are we going to listen to them or these doctors over here with their belly hanging over, and they're like, no, you need to eat vegetable, and it just really, I was malnourished, just like you said, like I was
Yeah.
not getting enough nutrients. And there's a
Mm,
whole other thing
mm,
behind that
yeah.
with vegetables, but anyone can
Mm,
look this up. It's not even
mm,
hidden.
yeah.
It's hidden in plain sight. It's hidden in plain sight.
I like
It's
that.
out there. Hmm.
I like that. But then again, there is, if you look in general terms, there are many of the vegetables have a beautiful colors, and it's the in the colors there are hidden some wonderful compounds, chemical compounds that are needed for your life. So it's ultimately
Yes,
you're
some people I think need vegetables. I do. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
everybody's different and everybody needs to figure out like what works
Absolutely.
best for them. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think if you're a vegetarian, you're running risks. That's extreme. If you are running pure carnivore, you're running risks. That's extreme. That does not mean to say that if you have a specific problem, like certain autoimmune
Yeah.
diseases that maybe are triggered by histamine foods that like vegetables or oxalate rich foods or other foods
Yeah.
that have got these kind of the solanine in the green stuff or the stuff that you find in green potatoes, etc. There
Yeah.
are compounds out there that are not very nice. Thank you very much. So
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. So
I
if
try
that
to add
is
them in every now and then. I try to
yeah,
reintroduce them
yeah,
with and then I'll always, our bodies are going to tell us. And that's how you're going to know. Like you listen to your body, like our minds are going to lie to us a lot. Like my mind was lying to me about the whole vegetable thing because I was programmed to think this one thing. And so I had to just go by what my body was telling me. And
mm,
so someone else might not even feel like they can digest meat very well, so they need
absolutely.
to listen to their body.
Yeah. And again, here we are. So let's go back to let's combine that all because here you are on the one hand saying, okay, for me, the meat-rich diet with virtually no veggies is beautiful. It works for me. I feel so
Mhm.
much better. Well, that's a I take action, then I assess and see the outcome kind of a loop,
Mhm.
and I use that feedback to control the future. What we do know is when you go for a carnivore diet or a different, more sort of that aspect of diets, that your gut microbiome changes, and it can
Yes.
change towards a better being. So provided that there is still the diversity of the different bacteria there, and that they're still doing their job. For example, the serotonin, our feel-good hormone. Well, 75 to 95% of the serotonin is produced by the gut bacteria. So if you're
Mhm.
now messing around with them, you might actually cure one thing, but you jump from the frying pan into the fire because you're now, if your mood starts deteriorating and spiraling out of control, because
Then
you're
it's not the
exactly.
right diet for you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So be aware and don't just follow the hype. Don't just
Yeah.
think for a second, oh, brilliant. From now on, I eat only that diet and that will cure all my problems. I'm sorry, darling. Your childhood trauma has not been fixed, and you're still in a
Yeah.
toxic relationship, and you're still in that. And guess what? So now you have changed one thing in your life, but you have completely neglected or disregarded all the other things. Do you
Yeah.
really think that there will be a lasting change, a lasting improvement? And I think that is why so many diets fail.
Yeah,
That's
it's got to
why
be a holistic approach, mind, body, and
absolutely,
spirit. And
absolutely.
that's the only way. And part of that is not the fun part when we have to get to the root cause. Okay, well, why do I even have these addictions to begin with? Like, why am I even having these cravings? Like, what am I trying to escape from? What am I trying to shove down? Like, and mine was a
Exactly.
combination of all of the above,
Exactly.
and it
You,
kind of sucks that I can't eat whatever I want, but it's also kind of good because it cures your food addiction. Look, I don't crave sugar anymore because I don't have it in my system. Like I don't crave cocaine because I don't have it in my system. Same concept, right? Like I was a sugar addict,
yeah.
like so bad. Like, and then if I would have like my son would make cookies or something, and he'd be like, "Hey, mom, want one?" And if I couldn't have just one, like I just same thing, same as with alcohol.
Oh yeah.
I'm a bingy person, like
Yeah.
some people have this dial where they can moderate, up and down. And that's not me. I'm all in or all out. So the carnivore diet beautifully works for me. And luckily it's made me happier too. Like I've
Yeah.
been doing it almost 2 years now. And
Beautiful.
I can tell that I'm just everything about everything about my personality. I'm like, I have more energy. And it's so interesting because I'm like, I have zero carbs, but I was taught that carbs are essential. And it's like you go from being a carb burner to a fat burner. And so like, I'm just living off of, that's why I eat a lot of fat, and it's regulated my hormones too. So I think like for me, it really worked out. But yeah, you're right. It could be the absolute wrong diet for another person.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't, it kind of took care of my food addiction, because
Beautiful.
just as an indirect thing, like, oh man, like now I don't have sugar, and you can't cheat. You got to marry the carnivore diet, because you are messing with your gut, your microbiome. If you cheat now and then, like you really need to marry it. You cannot date it. You need to get married to this diet. I'm serious. Like it
That's right.
messes people up.
And I go away. I hate the word diet. I call them food plans.
Lifestyle.
Food
Mm-hmm.
plans. It is a Mediterranean food plan, or it is you call it what it is, because it is part of your life. It's a plan
Yeah.
for your life. And your life is sustained by food. Food, by definition, are things that are nutrients. So therefore, actually, 80% of what you buy in a supermarket shouldn't really be called food, because they're a mixture of chemicals that are definitely not sustaining you in your life and improving your body and giving the body what it needs.
I know.
Equally, and that's probably the same with relationships. 50% or more of
True.
relationships are certainly not there who are sustaining you, feeding you, fulfilling your needs. I think there's so many things, but that's again where we have the power to actually take back control. And I think that is what you've experienced with changing your diet. You suddenly are in control and have improved one part of your life, and you suddenly think, huh, that's actually not bad. Let's see what else we can improve.
Well, the
Maybe
alcohol was the most important one, because that's when I
touche.
really took back control, because I didn't even realize I was out of control
Yeah.
until I'm like, how did I even live like that? But I was functional. And that's kind of, I think my audience of people I'm speaking to is like, you're functional. Things were okay. Like I was running two businesses and still drinking.
Yeah.
It was 2 years, like I was slowing down because I liked my life. I was out of the corporate world. The more I liked my life, the more we're powerful creators. Like I said earlier, the more I start creating my life, I got out of that corporate environment that made me want to escape all the time and numb myself. And by the way, you've probably heard this, we can't selectively numb our feelings. When we numb our feelings, we're also numbing all the joy. Like that's like, I wasn't capable of being this joyful. Like now I am, because I don't numb out anymore. I feel my feelings. And listen, even though I'm a law of attraction teacher, I'm not the toxic positivity type. Like I do think we need to feel our feelings. They're indicators, they're guidance, they're letting us know. So like analyze it like, oh, why did I get triggered? It's just showing you a place, it's showing you something that still has power over you, really, when you're triggered. Like this is an area of my life that I haven't quite healed yet. So I get excited when I get triggered. What triggers me a lot is social media. Social media triggers me. So that's what I used it as a way to learn. Okay, this is something I still need to work on. It's not bad. Like I think we're going to always be triggered by stuff. I don't think I think we're all going to heal until the day we die.
Yeah.
I don't think we're ever like, okay, I'm fully healed now. And you certainly don't have to wait to be fully healed to be in a relationship. But you want to be with somebody who's willing to be in a conscious relationship with you, where you're healing together, where you're growing together, where you're uplifting each other. If you're with somebody like I used to be, who feels like your enemy and is trying to hold you down, and it's like, that's not, you're supposed to feel like you're with your best friend. You're not supposed to feel like you're on this roller coaster ride of really high highs and really low lows. And that's a toxic trauma bond relationship that, unless that person is willing and able to change with you and grow with you and start, reacting and being mindful and conscious in the relationship, you're screwed. You might as well leave that one. I'm just being honest.
No.
Because both partners have to be willing to do that.
And I think that's what we are seeing in many relationships, that they stay together until, for example, the kids have left the house. And then suddenly there's the empty nest syndrome. And you think, well, actually, who are you? And by the way,
I don't even
actually,
like you.
well, exactly right. And that is, it is what it is. Hindsight is always a beautiful thing, isn't it? We can always look back and think, oh yeah, okay. And typically we look back with regret, and certainly I do that a lot, because a lot of negative things have happened to me, and maybe I do regret many times that I have not responded in the way that I would respond now. But you have to make the bad decision to know what is a good decision. You have to make the bad choices in order to appreciate that actually, had I just done different. But I'm not talking should have, would have, could have. I'm talking, okay, what would I do now different? So trauma
Yeah.
has occurred. I have grown from it. I have learned so much more now. I'm such a different man. What would I do different? And I think
That's
that's
called
our
contrast. Contrast is
mm,
what you're explaining. That's step one of creating
mm,
our reality. We don't know what we want until we have what we don't want first. So it's an essential part.
exactly.
It really is. We don't want to, that's how we ask, because the basic law of attraction formula would be ask plus believe equals receive. And that's so basic, and there's so much more involved. But that
Yeah,
part in the middle, believe, that's where we all get hung up.
yeah.
Because we have all these limiting beliefs. But the good
Ah,
news is that we can change our beliefs, but we can only people think a law of attraction doesn't work. We can only attract things within our personal belief system. So it does work, but the work is on our beliefs. We really have to get, and that comes with a lot of, there's something called a point of attraction, for instance. We're all so different. So our point of attraction would be all of our programming, all of our beliefs, everything from birth until now. So that's a lot. And you can see how it's individual. No one's going to have the same
yeah.
programming. And then part two of that is going to be your momentum on a certain subject. So that subject could be relationships. It could be our health. It could be money, like our career, our life purpose. So we have momentum on different subjects. So I could have a great momentum in my career, but a really crappy momentum when it comes to relationships because of my past, right? So then so that's part two. Our momentum on each subject has different momentum. And part three is, how do you feel right now? So
Mm,
it's very, very complicated, and everyone has a different point of attraction. And then on top of that, we have all these limiting beliefs,
mm,
and it's not woo woo, it's science. Like everything vibrates, like if you look at everything vibrates at
mm,
different rates, and everything's
mm,
energy.
mm.
And that's really what it's about. It's actually quantum physics. And it's like we don't get to say, I'm not going to apply the law of attraction today. Just like we can't say, like, I'm not going to apply the law of gravity. It's happening whether you believe it or not. You're always
Um,
manifesting something. So you might as well learn about it, learn how to manifest intentionally
yeah.
and deliberately. So you're creating your life instead of let life throw you around like by default.
I love what you're saying. It is. And there is only so much that you can pretend. And I think that is where the law of attraction and where so many people say, what a heap of bullshit, because they give it a try and say, I'm positive. I'm so positive because everything is good and everything is fine. This kind of pretend, when really, first of all, that what they are doing is really a very, very conscious, oh, I need to conjure up that positivity because it's so positive, it's so beautiful. When in reality, 99% of them want to say, oh, what a shit. And guess what? 99% of your nonverbal communication will say, oh, it's shit. I don't believe that shit. And I'm so negative. And guess what? If you say, wow, okay, so I did all this conscious hard work and nothing positive has come. In fact, people are actually going away from me. I don't attract nice people. Well, guess what? I think you were just pulling the wool over your own eyes. Um, agreed?
Yes. So I love everything you said, because that leads to something really important. So what you're talking about would be like mind heart coherence,
Hmm,
which Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about all the time. And what he means by that is, it's not just like, so yeah, thoughts are things, feelings are things. He always says like our minds are electric and our hearts are magnetic. We're electromagnetic beings. Again, he's very scientific about it, and it's true. And when we say something, we don't really believe it. We don't have mind heart coherence, because it's a very feeling universe. It's feeling even more so. That's the vibration that's going out there. So if
sure.
you can't, I came up with the saying, okay, you can't bullshit the universe. You cannot bullshit the universe. So you cannot just sit there and say positive thoughts, or sit home on a meditation cushion and expect things to start flowing to you. Number one, there is no law of attraction without taking action. Every
Uh,
single thing around us is a manifestation. Like it started as a thought, And then, it's everything that we see around us is a manifestation. So it's not even woo woo when you think of it that way. That's just this bringing something from a thought, an idea into form, into physical form. That's all manifestation is. But our emotions are also manifestations. So like, feeling a certain way if you kind of dwell on it, you'll continue to feel that. Will turn into a mood, or will turn into, your attitude eventually. Right. And like Dr. Bruce Lipton is another one. He actually said that 95% of our thoughts or 95% of our days were in subconscious mode. We're on autopilot. We're not conscious creators. And that's what we need to shift is bringing all that subconscious stuff into our conscious mind, where we could heal it and where we could fix it, where, because people are thinking the same thoughts, doing the same actions, all the same shit as the day before. And then they're wondering why their life hasn't changed. They literally have not done anything differently. And then they both will talk about neuroplasticity and that we can change. We can. And for a long time, they were teaching that, this is just how you are. You can't. But now we know that you can change all these thoughts. And I always tell people, it's not really harder to think positive than it is to think negative. It's just that we've been practicing the negative so much longer. We've been brainwashing ourselves and programming ourselves. So now we got to brainwash ourselves the other direction. And because, we almost got to overdo it, swing the pendulum the other way, to be honest, because we've been really programming ourselves with some negative shit.
80% of our thoughts are negative, ballpark. And we've got 80,000 thoughts, 60 to 80,000, depending on who you listen to. And if 80% of them are negative, we are flooded by a tsunami of negativity. And if
but that's not us anymore. Like we used to be that way. Like I guarantee you don't have mostly negative thoughts anymore.
Oh, I have. It's
not mostly. Not mostly. No.
No, let's put it like that. I catch myself much earlier.
Yes.
So absolutely. I'm so much more emotionally intelligent about emotions, and I'm more curious and inquisitive about what an emotion is telling me. And I mean, one of my books is Depression Lied to Me, and it is absolutely there is, and same. I could have written a book, Addiction Lied to Me. I lied to me, because these are a lot of statements that are disguised as facts. You're a failure. You're unlovable. You're a fat whatever. And when you then actually ask behind it, well, what's the evidence for that? Then, see, because of X, Y, and Z. And then you have to also ask, okay, what's the evidence against that? Then, well, actually, that's where the gratitude comes in. That's where you suddenly actually, your win list, where you actually say, well, actually, I showed up today. I actually did this. And suddenly you disprove this so-called fact, you're a failure.
But it's evidence.
Absolutely. But this is a conscious thought. This is a conscious process I'm going through, with which I am able to negate some of the core beliefs that I'm a failure, that I'm unlovable. Look, I'm 58. I've gone through a divorce. No one will ever want me again. This is presented as a fact in my brain. When in reality, that's where friends come in. That's where connection comes in. And that's where other people give you the reality check and say, well, actually, I was there, and have a look at my partner now. And you think, oh, okay, proven wrong. Good. I like.
Oh yeah. That's like the most common limiting belief is I'm not worthy. And then I get a lot of clients who are like, they believe in stuff. They believe in law of attraction they believe it works for other people. They just don't believe it's going to work for them. And something that really, I couldn't connect the dots with for a long time. I've only known about this for maybe 5 years, because I was still attracting toxic relationships. And I'm like, I'm attracting these manipulators and narcissists and liars and cheaters. I'm like, what in the hell? Like if law of attraction is real, I was starting to doubt it, because I'm like, I'm not a narcissist. I'm not a liar. I'm not a cheater. Like, why am I attracting this? And by the way, a big myth, like if you have an attractive energy, you're going to attract everybody. It's up to us to use discernment. Like just because you attracted something doesn't mean that's what you are. We are responsible for discernment, and like everyone's going to be attracted to attractive energy. Okay. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't mean you are that energy because you attracted somebody. But my point is, there's something called the 7 mirrors, and I'll only go over mirror 1 for the sake of time. But it's judgment. If you are not attracting what you are, or one of the mirrors out of 7 is, are you attracting what you judge? And that was so subtle for me. I didn't realize I was still judging these people. I was judging liars. I was judging cheaters. So I had this energetic spark. Even though I'm not it, I'm still have we attract anything we have an energetic spark with. So I had to do like this big old judgment detox, and just to give you guys, it took me a while, but I am to the point where you develop compassion for these people, because what worked for me was like thinking about my exes, for instance. Like, they were once a baby, they were born a clean slate, they were just this sweet, innocent baby, and stuff happened to them in their life to get them to the point where, they had traumas. And I can think about each of them, and I could see that they did. And, they got to a point somehow where they felt as though they needed to lie, cheat, manipulate in order to get love. And then that caused me to have more compassion. My compassion overruled the judgment. You know what I mean? And I stopped attracting that about 5 years ago. Once I did that, but I kept, and I couldn't figure that out for so long. Like, cause I'm like, if the law of attraction is real, why do I keep attracting something? Because I'm not this. And I knew that for a while I started looking at like, am I a narcissist? Because I was believed in the law of attraction so much, but it was just, there's an expansion on law of attraction. And there's 6 more mirrors that go along with the 7. Greg Braden, 7 mirrors. You can get it free on YouTube. The Essenes. This is the 7 mirrors of the Essenes, Essenes. And and you're going to want to watch that. It's like 2 hours long. Greg Braden sporting a mullet. It's old, but Greg, Gregg Braden. Do you know him?
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard about him. Yeah.
He's buds with like Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton. Like they're our friends. But so it's just a really great thing that I just happened to run across, and I was like, it changed my life. Like something that small, because I didn't realize like that judging something could cause you to attract it. And also, if you want to talk about our subconscious minds don't, well, number one, our subconscious minds don't know the difference between fact or fiction. So you got to be careful what you're saying. You got to guard those thoughts. And when you're judging, your mind thinks you're judging itself. So it literally is like, when you're judging other people, you're actually really judging yourself according to your subconscious mind. It's really like what goes around comes around, quite literally, when it comes to judgment. So that's something that everybody wants to look at, and we're all guilty of it, every single one of us.
And it's beautiful the way you describe it, but it can also be so overwhelming. So when we say, wow, there are so many pitfalls there, you change a little bit, and there you change your diet and expect something different to come out, and then it's a huge spider web. So
journey.
Yeah. Oh, true. Very true. And I was about to ask you that. I mean, what are maybe some of the low-hanging fruits when we look at changes in our lives, where, given your life experience, and if I gave you my time machine and you could go back, not to alter the things that happened to you, but maybe the choices that you would do, or the sequence with which you address things, what would you do different?
What I wish I had done, like I could have healed a lot like sooner. And I didn't get guidance, by the way. Like I would have loved to have some sort of guidance from somebody. I just figured all this out on my own. And I can tell you, it was like, when I think back to where I first thought about, do I have a problem with alcohol? I mean, that was 2 years, and I don't think it has to be 2 years. And I think it could be a lot like, because I was in denial before that. That's why it took me 2 years. And I was like, well, I could just quit whenever I want. And it took 2 years. So that's not whenever I want, is it? But I would have immediately taken away distractions, like the scrolling, like all of these things, and gone out and meditated, because we can't, what we're doing is we're cutting ourselves up from I think all of us have a direct connection to what I call source energy, our higher self, our inner being, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to label it, God. We all have this direct connection, but we cut ourselves off. We disconnect ourselves. God, source energy never disconnects from us. We're the ones because we're distracted by things. We're watching Netflix, we're scrolling, there's a lot of pornography. Like there's a huge addiction for people, pornography, sex addiction, of course, getting in relationships and being more, focused on the other person and how that relationship's going instead of yourself, and that keeps you involved with alcohol too. Like those things kind of work together. Even sports is an addiction. Like it can really get to a point where it's out of control. Like if I dated a guy once and he would there's a team in the United States called Miami Dolphins, and he would stand in front of the TV, and that was his team. And he would stand there and watch the whole game. And he would be literally so upset when they lost, and they lost all the time. Like it would ruin our whole week. And I was like, this is ridiculous. This is an addiction. Like you're really going to let this ruin, and it was. And so that's something. Video games are huge. Like I used to say, like, the kids, but there's a lot of adults, there's a lot of grownups escaping their life, like trying to be in the present moment. That's a huge low hanging fruit thing. Like anything you can do to I'm not saying don't have fun. I'm not saying don't watch Netflix. I'm not saying don't play video games, but I'm saying time it and be more mindful, and start paying attention to all these distractions, all these things that you're doing to escape just the present moment, because that's where the healing starts, like knowing yourself. And the way to get to know yourself is meditation. And I hated it so much when I first started. I had so much resistance. Look, you could tell by my energy. Do I seem like someone who's going to want to be quiet and meditate? No. So I did better with breath work. I did better with guided meditations, because then you're focusing on something, and it's still meditation. You could do walking meditations. I was always going on walks with, listening to podcasts, positive stuff, but still input. Put away everything, go on a walk without listening to something, and just be with yourself. That's meditation. Absolutely. And that's when you're going to start really connecting with yourself. And we have this everybody has this connection, but we can't hear it because we're not tuned in. We're not tuned in. Think about when you're in the shower. Like I get all these like inspired thoughts when I'm in the shower. It's because I'm disconnected. I think water's conductive. I think that kind of helps too, but I don't know. I don't have proof of that, but I just feel like I get all these amazing ideas when I'm in the shower. Like it's because I'm not scrolling on my phone. I'm not doing all this other stuff to distract myself. And when we can be in the present moment and quiet our minds, that's the first step of healing. And that's something anyone can do. Do listen to positive messaging. Do ground yourself. Gosh, that's huge. Like just even when it's cold, I try to go out and be barefoot for a little while outside and ground myself, because I'm obviously not a grounded person here. You're not talking to a grounded person. I'm going to say what else, but that's why I go out of my way to do that. Exercise. You got to move your body. You have to every day do something. It doesn't have to be hard. Even if just like going on a walking meditation, start choosing healthier foods, all of these things. Like you just start doing little steps, just little things here and there.
Exactly.
Don't try to quit more than one thing at once, because you're just going to self-sabotage, but do one thing at a time. Or it might be adding a positive thing. Like it might be adding, I'm going to start drinking water, more. Like just try to either add a good habit or delete a bad habit one at a time, so you don't self-destruct.
I like it. But have an overall plan, because it's very easy to go off road, to go and get lost in the wilderness. It is wilderness of distraction, the wilderness of, oh my God, something else that seems to be important, but in reality, you make it somehow urgent. And when you actually reflect on it, it was neither important nor urgent, but you chose to do it kind of as a way of procrastinate, to shy away from the more challenging things and the more rewarding things in the long run. You would feel so much better if you were to deal with the alcohol, or if you were to deal with the food addiction. But that means probably hard work on yourself. There is no quick fix. When you're massively overweight, guess what? Your Ozempic will not change the world. It might give you a bit of an advantage for a little while, but that's about it. There is so much more going on. So that's why so many people fail and prove to themselves that they are failures. And it's basically a reinforcing negative energy that keeps going, because you expect outcomes that are absolutely unrealistic. So I love what you
There's no
said.
spiritual awakening without a healing journey. You have to have that. You have to do the shadow work. You have to.
Absolutely.
There's no getting out of the facing
Absolutely.
those feelings that we've been numbing out, like that I numbed out for 30 years. I mean, I wasn't numbing everything, but it is like hard to sit with yourself and sit with your feelings when you're used to just going, oh, I need a drink, and just like doing that. But you have to replace those habits. Like I had so much more time in my day. Oh my God, when I quit drinking, I was like, what do I do with all this time? So I joined the gym. So you want to find a healthy habit to replace that. And I became a gym rat for a while, and then to the extreme, because I do everything extreme. And, so you got to identify, like I said earlier, some people can moderate. I'm all in, I'm all out. Identify what type of person you are. If you're like me and you're all in or all out, if you're an extremist, you're going to do really well with abstinence. Like I'm great with abstinence, but if I have one drink, I'm going to go crazy with that, right? I don't have a stop button. Same with cookies. I'm going to eat the whole fucking sleeve of cookies. I'm not just going to have one. So I just better at not getting started. So you need to look at yourself, identify which type are you. Yeah. And you know what? I could moderate sometimes. I'm gonna tell you the truth. That's what was tricky, is I could go like 20 times in a row and only have 2 glasses of wine. But that 21st time, I'm gonna go balls to the wall and crazy and get hammered and regrets. Then just feel like I never even quit, never even was able to moderate at all. And it was back to square one. I just really think that I learned, I tried for 2 years to keep alcohol. Like I said, that's why it was 2 years. I'm like, I'm going to drink organic wine. Oh, and that's so healthy. Oh, I'm just going to drink beer because I hated beer. So I'd go get some beer, and then I would be like, now I'm buzzed. Now I'm going to go buy some fucking wine. It didn't stop me. It ruined my judgment.
Yeah. Of course not.
Mm-hmm. No, and then I would go buy a bottle of wine every time I drank beer. It didn't stop me, so I just think that it's really like, that's what the meditation part's about, is really getting to know yourself. I was doing all of this spiritual recovery work as I was trying to quit. And eventually, I'm telling you, I just had this energetic shift. I just finally, you got to keep doing this work, and it's daily work, kind of like going to the gym. You don't get just to say, I have my perfect body now, I'm done. This is daily stuff. You got to do maintenance. It's, you got to do stuff to raise your vibration every single day. You got to set yourself up for success, because when you don't, you're going to make bad decisions, bad choices. You put yourself to bed at night. That's something you can do. Put your damn self to bed, because I was really bad at that. My son even told me that one day. He's like, Mom, you're always complaining about being tired, but why don't you just go to bed? And I would stay up, because I would be drinking, and, I'd be having, have buzz. I'd get on social media, chatting with people, or I'd be, watching Netflix or whatever I might be doing. It's got me involved with all these other addictions too. You know what I mean? Because it's a lower vibrational substance. Alcohol really is. And when I towards the end, that shift that I had, my body stopped tolerating alcohol. I couldn't stand it anymore. It's I raised my vibration so much to where it's kind of that's kind of what I teach. The more you do this work, it's not overnight, but the more you raise your vibrational set point that we talked about earlier, the more you raise that set point, these addictions start to leave you. They do. They start to leave you, because you're no longer a match to this crap anymore. You just become you're not a vibrational match, to be perfectly honest. And it falls away, and you do get more joyful. You do get to the point where you're like, wow, why do I want to drink? I remember that. I remember ordering a drink. I was feeling really good that day. I just ordered out of habit, and I was like, I actually felt better before I had this drink than I do, and it was very logical about it. I'm like, I just paid money to feel worse. And I think my logical mind, even though I'm woo-woo and all those things, spiritual, I'm still very extremely logical and practical. So, and I think that does help me with the addiction stuff, because I can sit there and think, this doesn't make any fucking sense. Why am I doing that?
Sure.
Up.
Let's be quite clear though. It is we are frequencies. And for anyone who says, oh, that's bullshit. Well, I'm sorry. Then explain to me how your cell phone works. Okay. Are there frequencies, certain frequencies that information is transmitted? Yes. Oh, interesting. Look at the negative sides of well, positive sides. If you take a microwave, if you send certain frequencies into that, it warms it
Yeah.
up. Well, guess what? The American military is experimenting with crowd control, where they use frequencies that give you the feeling of an immediate hot, like a massive sunburn immediately once the rays hit you, to
Mhm.
disperse crowds. Well, guess what? That's frequency. So
How
you're
are we
telling
talking right now? It's
that
frequency, like everything.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So they've
And
what
at
is
microscope, anything you look at with a microscope, it's going to be vibrating. Even
not to
these
say.
things that are solid. So it's energy.
You're right. You're right. So there's so many examples there, and it's just maybe a different way of looking at your life. And once you accept all these examples, and you accept that also you are directly influenced, for example, the power of music, that certain music is completely accelerating for you, whatever that may be. And there will be certain frequencies that are absolutely beautiful and changing you. Um, and other frequencies that are actually can use to the opposite. So we've got all these examples. So maybe it's just worthwhile to look into that and to actually say, okay, what is the frequency of fear? What is the frequency
Mm-hmm.
of gratitude? What is the frequency?
Mm-hmm.
So, what are kind of certain states of being that are maybe higher frequency? What does that mean? And are there ways that I can conjure up this state? Is there a way that more of the day I can spend in states where I am maybe vibrating in a higher frequency?
And it is
And
about catching yourself, like you said earlier, catching yourself and turning it around and interrupting these old patterns.
yeah,
That's like really the way to do it because it's not going to be overnight.
no,
And by the way, something really important to know, even when you do like I vibrate pretty high. I do. Because I work on this every day. I still have my triggers. I still have my bad days. I still have to catch myself and turn myself around
yeah,
sometimes. And you can't vibrate your way out of bad things happening. That's a big misconception. I
exactly.
hate it when people say that. I see that shit all the time. Like, no.
Uh,
You cannot vibrate your way out of bad things happening. Like your pets are still going to die. Your parents are going to die. You're going to might lose a job here and there. Sometimes we think things are bad, like we lose a job, and it's actually ends up being a huge blessing anyway. So you never know why things happen, but you know, you cannot vibrate high enough to where because there's too many moving parts, right? And you got other people's vibrations. We can only control our own. We can't control somebody else's
yeah,
vibration. We can influence what comes around us some of the time, but not all the time. And
yeah,
that's something that I really wanted to make sure that people understand. Like it's daily work. It's daily work. I've you have to get enough sleep. Music is actually one of my cards in my deck that I created. Music's one, sleep, morning routine,
yeah,
finding a passion. There's just so many things that like when we feel like a lot of times people drink because they feel hopeless and they feel lonely and they feel
yeah,
disconnected. You got to find a purpose. You got to find bonds, like when you don't have people to bond with, you're going to bond with a substance. You're going to bond with
wow,
something, right? Or do something like get on the internet, pornography, whatever. What it's different for
yeah,
everybody. They're gonna do something to fill that void. And
mm,
shopping is a huge one, and people don't realize like that's actually pretty detrimental because your people are spending money they don't have, and
yeah,
they be like, oh, ha, I have a shopping addiction, and they
uh,
joke about it, but like you're destroying your family. You know what I mean? I
very,
have
very
friends
true.
that hide stuff in their car. Like they don't want their husband to see all the stuff they bought, that day. Yeah, that's an addiction. That's an addiction.
And it is so important that we also talk about the cross addiction, because once you deal with one thing, it's very easy if you don't deal with the underlying reasons why you show
Mhm.
addictive behavior, that you will cross addict. You will go from something else. So you stop drinking, but now you start smoking, or you
But I went
start
to the gym and
gambling.
then I overdid it. And then I became
Exactly.
like, I started to hurt myself and get injuries because I went crazy because I hadn't yet fully healed, like you're saying. And I was doing all the things, but yeah, I needed to, then you find a nice healthy balance, but yeah, I was like, I went
So,
crazy in the gym.
out of your mouth, nice healthy balance.
A nice healthy balance.
Yeah, about that. Mrs. Extreme, I go from either all in to all out.
But I'm all into the good stuff now. No,
Absolutely.
I do catch myself doing things and being extreme, and I
Yeah,
always am needing to bring myself back. That's a daily thing for me, bringing myself
doesn't
back
it?
to center. Yeah,
But
yeah. I
that's
can't let
the
myself go wild.
exactly. So that's the introspection. That's where you actually again challenge yourself and look at yourself in a mirror in a nurturing, positive way rather than you idiot, what have you been up to? Now you're injured yourself. Um, Same thing here. I became fitter. I've lost a lot of weight, and recently I've just flared up or probably created a new little injury on my knee, and it's nothing wild, nothing to really stop me. But in the past, it would have been, "Oh, you idiot! How could you?"
Mm,
and negative, negative, negative. No, I'm
hmm
saying, oh, okay, fair enough. Thank you very much for the warning there. I really still feel like I'm 21 in there, somewhere. Thank you for the reality check. So it's good. So we need to listen to our bodies. We need to
Yeah.
listen and observe what is happening inside. We need to observe what is happening around us. Me going through hard times recently, I probably have radiated negativity in quite an intense way. And I probably have pushed away people who normally would
hmm
love me and want to show me love. I probably pushed them away with my negativity
hmm
inadvertently when I really needed their love most, when I needed their support most. So
mm.
there is the law of attraction also works in different ways. You can't just say this law of you called it earlier toxic positivity. I actually liked that a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, talk,
Yeah.
and that's a real thing. And the reason I know what it is because I used to be that person. Like, because I was so scared, like what you're saying. I was so scared to think a negative thought for a while, or I'm gonna, oh no, and I'm gonna try this, and I'm like trying to suck up all these thoughts, and oh no, I thought it was gonna instantly manifest. We do have some lag time, thank goodness. Usually we don't, it doesn't instantly manifest.
Yeah.
But yeah, toxic positivity is something that it's like denial. We're just in denial, we're suppressing things, we're trying, we're being fake. It's kind of reminds me of the people pleaser thing we talked about
Yeah.
earlier. Like, we're not being authentic. And by the way, did you know that they can measure frequency now? There's something called the Spain, and it's SPANE. Someone can Google it. Spain scale of emotion or something.
Yeah.
Authenticity was number one. It's the highest frequency of everything, authenticity. And I think I would have thought love would be, or bliss or joy, but
Yeah.
I think the reason authenticity is because we are love. Like, we really are. That's what we are. So if you're being authentic, it's love's right up in there anyway. So
Ooh,
that's
nice.
who we truly are. But yeah, that's the only way I could figure it out, because I'm like, but authenticity is the highest frequency that they can measure. There,
Yeah.
and I think it's so cool that our technology is catching up with all this woo-woo stuff that I talk about. I'm like, yes, I
Touche.
told you guys. Yeah, because
Touche.
I've been like really talking to people about this since 2006,
Yeah.
and now things are measurable, and that makes that I get to say
Yeah.
I told you so.
Yeah. And I think it's no, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And the authenticity, let's be also let's honesty and authenticity is very similar, yet there are differences. But you need to be honest with yourself. If you're having a bad day, that's okay. You are having a
Yeah.
bad day.
That's
So
self-awareness. And that's
up
like, the self-awareness is the first step to getting rid of any addiction, by the way. That's the first step. Because remember, when I couldn't quit is because I was in denial. I was not self-aware yet.
absolutely.
I was self-aware in a lot of other ways. I just had a block with alcohol. I couldn't see it. I just could not see it. I'm just
Hmm.
because everybody I knew was drunks too.
But the past does not equal the future. And I think we both are examples that we can change, but that this is not a quick fix, but these are actually slow, daily steps. Often, I mean, there are certain steps that you can create habits in. You do the grounding, you do the meditation, and but at the exercise, you set those three things. You could combine them. You could, if you have a garden, then you can
Yeah.
actually get your hands into the soil, start weeding, start planting, etc., whilst you're raising your heart rate and whilst you're stretching and getting more mobile. Um, so you've got all those kind of things together, plus soaking up a bit of vitamin D
Yeah.
if the circumstances allow you to do so. So, but these are habits. So to be the 5 minute gardener that you from now on say every day I will spend 5 minutes in the garden uh, to achieve a certain outcome, never less, never more. Or if I want to treat myself, I spend more time there, but never less. You get compound interest. So this is when you create
Yeah.
habits that are strengthening you, that are changing you towards a better version of yourself. And that is where we have got the power of regular habits, number one. But there will be times when curveballs are coming and sometimes shitstorms happening and new trauma is happening. But again, if you have practiced how to
Hmm.
sit with your emotions and accept them for what they are, if you suddenly say, "Oh my God, look what is happening. A hurricane has just is bearing down on us." Well, if you don't feel fear, if you want to run away from your fear and get drunk rather than preparing for the hurricane, well, that
Hmm.
doesn't work so well. You might
No.
not like the fear, you might not like the hurricane. Well, the hurricane doesn't care, does it? So, bottom line is there are certain general habits that you can do to strengthen yourself, and there are certain skills you can learn, i.e., to sit with your emotions and
And do
to
it
accept.
slowly and be
Yeah,
gentle with yourself.
please.
And there's a temptation bundling is kind of what you just reminded me of. There's that's something really good to learn about is like, yeah, watch Netflix if you're tempted to watch Netflix, but exercise while you're doing it. You know what I mean? You could do things like
Yeah,
so then it doesn't feel so bad anymore that you this guilty
exactly.
pleasure, right? Like
Exactly.
do something healthy while you're doing the other thing. But now not if it's alcohol. If it's alcohol, you really got to find it something like you said, you're going to have a cross addiction. Let it be something healthy like going to the gym or just anything but the sugar. I mean, I think what a lot of people do is they get into eating like crap when they first quit drinking
Absolutely.
because you feel sorry for
Absolutely.
yourself at first, right? You're like, well,
Absolutely.
I can't have any alcohol, so I'm going to get dessert, you know. And
Absolutely.
I went through that phase. I went through that and I got out of it. But you don't want to stay in it too long because then you're mad at yourself for gaining weight when you
Yeah.
quit drinking. And then you're like, oh my God, I quit. Now I'm going to go back to drinking because at least I wasn't fat, you know. It's
Oh,
just
that's right. That's right.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Oh, for
A
Christ's
vicious
sake.
cycle. So
Oh,
I don't
this.
recommend the overeating after you quit drinking. I don't recommend it because then you're just going to hate yourself for a different reason.
Oh. But then again, this is your journey, whatever it
Yeah,
takes for you
that's true.
to change. Overeating will have its own problems, the diabetes, the your every other maladaptive behavior will have its consequences. So don't think for a moment that if you just stop one thing, then life will be fine. But start being curious. Start being curious of how you tick. Learn more about yourself. What are your patterns of behavior? Why is someone triggering you? How can you make right now a choice to maybe set yourself up for a better time right now and in the future? Live in the moment. Learn to live right now. The past has
Hmm.
been and gone, and yes, reflect back and learn from it. Fair call, but don't live there. The
Don't dwell
regret.
there. Yeah, like
Exactly.
it's like with me, like realizing, oh, this is all because of an abandonment wound that I had from the divorce. A lot of people don't even think divorce is a trauma. Like they don't. It is a
Yeah.
huge trauma, but I
Yeah.
think a lot of people just aren't aware of, they think it's got to be something like much bigger than a divorce. But,
Exactly.
having a parent leave and having the abandonment wound, and then that does create a lot of issues down the road. It just does, especially
Yeah.
like in the 70s with, my neither parent talked to me about it. My dad just came out and he was just like, all right, I'm not gonna be living here anymore. And he just told me that. And then I didn't really see him much after that. And I was like, okay. My mom never taught. It was just weird. I think the 70s were special. A little rough.
Oh yeah.
We raised ourselves. Let's face it. Not just me. It was how it was.
Latchkey child, all these kind of things. You're so right. You're so right. You're an amazing woman. Mary Beth, I could talk to you for hours. We are sort of playing the ball very fast on the tennis field here, back forth, back forth. Wow. I loved it. I loved every second of it. And I've got the sensation that this is probably not the last time that we speak, and that we co-create and that we challenge each other. I love it. Tell me, if people want to find you and want to know more about you, where can they find you?
The best place, like if you're thinking about coaching or anything like that,
Mm.
I do offer a free discovery call, one-on-one Zoom call with me. Doesn't matter where you live as long as you speak English. And that's day1lifecoaching.com, DAYONE lifecoaching.com. Addiction recovery with the law of attraction. It's a deck of cards, that you pick one each day. And there's a picture on the front that I had an artist, is all original artwork. And if not, I didn't draw it. It would have been stick figures. I hired an artist, and the back of it is enough. It is published as a book because of all the content, but each card teaches the law of attraction without all the misconceptions. It gives you, you're always going to pick the card that you need for that day. So you have your message of the day, and then you follow the instructions on the back of the card. And it's like, some people just use it to get in a positive vibe for the day, if they're not even, but everybody has addictions. Everybody does. Even if it's just a scrolling addiction. That's a huge one these days.
Yeah.
I got to catch myself with that one. I got to put my phone in another room.
I think the reality is, you need to be aware that there are algorithms there that are feeding you, and provided you actually trigger the algorithms in the right way, you can be fed by positivity. Chances are
curate it. Mm-hmm.
Chances are you're not. So therefore, again, catch yourself. And if you say, actually, this is really beautiful, because maybe you were in a really bad space up there, but going for half an hour through YouTube Shorts, and you get a lot of positive messages, and let's say law of attraction, affirmations, things like that, and you come back and say, wow, okay, actually, my anxiety is gone or has much reduced. Well, that's a good outcome. But check yourself. If you're basically getting more ratty after half an hour, then it's probably not the greatest thing.
Yeah.
Or if you're just feeling
no to
numb.
politics. No to politics. Yes to cat videos. No, I watch a lot of like, people send me stuff. That's really what I do. I don't scroll that much. My friends will send me stuff, little reels all the time. It's always cat videos. So it's usually uplifting stuff, but every now and then they'll send me politics, and it, like we were talking before that we recorded, like, it's so divisive, and I can't watch that stuff anymore. I just have to ask them, please stop sending that to me, because you're ruining my vibe, man. And I can't do anything about it. If we can't control things that we can't control, we shouldn't focus on. If I can do something and I can make a positive difference, then send me that, but don't send me stuff that's just going to make me feel hopeless and make me want to drink.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast, because all of Mary Beth's information is down there. So, and otherwise, Mary Beth, you're a gorgeous guest. Thank you so much for sharing all your passion and your insights, because these are amazing thoughts, and these are insights that everyone out there needs to hear right now, because there is hope, there is help, there is guidance. And when we're in the dark spot, we can't see that. We feel that we're alone. No one can possibly understand how I feel, when in reality, if you just show up in life authentically and honestly and with humility, and actually ask someone else, not just, how are you? Fine. But if you actually have a meaningful discussion, you will realize that they have been exactly in your shoes 4 years ago. And you had never known about it, because both of you have kept your mouth shut. But now, by actually connecting and talking in a meaningful way, living with intention right now, suddenly solutions present themselves. when you're ready to hear them. And I think that's so beautiful. So thank you so much, Mary Beth, for guiding us today. This was bloody awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
Cool. And you guys out there, look after yourself and live with intention. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.